Good night. Welcome to Rehab 101. I think is a good way of looking at this. And one of the things that I would like to do is remember that this is not so much about guitar playing as it is about the whole kind of uh, kinesiologist, rehab, continuation uh, after you have suffered a stroke or after you have triumphed over a stroke. And what I'm going to try to show or demonstrate here is what I call the constant fighting of the claw hand. And by the claw hand, I mean that if you look at a lot of stroke victims, their hands are in this position or in some kind of varying degrees of what I call the claw hand, which means that it's frozen, you can't open it. This is important because and I noticed this when looking at my dad over time. Why it's important is that the kind of tendency that we have to fight is not really should not be encouraged by, in this case, squeezing the ball, which is still good initial advice from my daughter, who is one of the few people I told about my having a stroke. I didn't tell their mother, I told the siblings, and I told my sister who carried me to the hospital. But the whole thing is that you want to train the extensor muscles, the ones that open the hand, and not concentrate on squeezing, which is what most people do. I think that this is a critical mistake. Not that you don't need this, but that if you spend all the time developing the same kind of muscles that will bring the hand together, it is counterproductive, because what you want to do is concentrate on muscles that will open the hand. And the claw hand is particularly debilitating, devastatingly debilitating, because it goes against a lot of the principles that we're learning in classical guitar. And I will show you one of them. It is the fact that if you closely look at what happens to the hand, if you're about to attempt planting, and planting is the placing of the fingers on the string, which gives you a feeling of security, so that it's not that you're swinging at the strings, it is that literally in planting the strings, you have that feeling of stability, that initial feeling, and then you bring the finger through the string. And you bring the finger through the string and into the palm of the hand. That is the motion. But as opposed to this hand, where this is unaffected by the stroke. So notice how this hand can curl up into my hand without the fingers touching each other. So they literally can curl in and stay fairly equidistant with each other until they enter the palm of the hand. This is not the case with the claw hand tendency, because what happens in this case is that these fingers have a tendency to touch. So see these two fingers, because of the clawing nature, if you will, of the hand, this and this finger have a tendency to touch. What that means is that all of the exercises that you do with planting need to keep in mind that you are forcing the fingers apart. This is not something that traditional kind of classical pedagogical manuscripts or manuals will tell you, or even teachers who are looking at you. They are not aware of it. So you have to be constantly, as you do the planting, you have to be constantly forcing these two fingers apart. So it's not like West Side, that kind of thing. It's literally how, in bringing them into the palm, how do you force them apart? And this kind of, apart from the amazing kind of discipline that it takes in order to just ensure yourself of the manual dexterity, which is necessarily needed anyhow for the classical repertoire, you also have to, at the same time, in preparing for this, spend at least as much time forcing the fingers apart. And that is a very different skill than if I was just continuing, as I said, with this, because the manual dexterity here is obvious, as is the dexterity here. But what you need to do is force or what I'm trying to do, I can't speak for anybody else. What I suggest that you do is, as you do that, just practicing, and even without the guitar, practice bringing the fingers into the palm of the hand, but meanwhile forcing these two apart, and then forcing these two apart. So the whole, I'll develop some exercises for this that may be helpful for those of you who need it. It forces the fingers apart as it brings them into the palm of the hand. Now, let me also tell you a strange phenomenon which was suggested, and I noticed it by my sibling, who is my go-to for all things medical. Her name is Julie. And what I told her was that even though there are supposed to be no nerve endings in the brain, that I can actually feel something in my brain as I am doing this. In other words, forcing the brain to take different neurological pathways in order to fight the tendency, the natural tendency, which is post-stroke. So I can actually feel it. It's almost as though it's just kind of a numb sensation as I imagine that is the neural pathways kind of forging themselves past or alternate routes past the areas that were blocked in the brain from the stroke. And I don't differentiate between degrees of stroke. It is what it is, and you can only do what you can do. So here's again the exercise, is that as you plant in your mind, you are forcing these fingers apart, forcing it like the splaying of let's call it like an umbrella, for example. You're forcing the spokes apart. So and then bringing it into the end. So forcing it, keeping them forced apart, keeping them pushing them apart. That tendency is here, but I also want to feel it down here where I can, and then bring it together. Is that clear? Now, in the meantime, you are still working on the strength. So I'm doing the strength, and what I do with these strength moves is in the sponge stress ball, I do the same thing. In other words, I press down on the fourth, press down on the fourth, forcing it in, press down on the third, press down, press down. I'm using a 4-finger technique, which again is not the traditional classical pedagogical kind of go-to, which is really PIMA. I'm adding the E, which is from, I guess, borrowed from, well, many cultures, but particularly Southern American Latin countries, which use this finger as well. So we're doing that, and remember that I'm doing this on a 7-string guitar, which is a choice that I made to extend the challenge. In other words, though it's tough enough to do it over 6, what I wanted to do is add a 7th string to extend the challenge. So let's go over that briefly. So we are doing this, we are strengthening it, and then I concentrate on squeezing this finger and this finger, this finger and this finger alternately, this finger and this finger. The second, if you call this PIMA, then what we're doing is the M and the A separately. So the M and the A separately. But as I'm squeezing in, I'm also trying to squeeze outward. So it is an outward stress. And for that as well, I use, I'm not sure if you call this calisthenics or what, but I hold this hand in as I push outwards with this hand. So this is another exercise to hold this in as you push outward, what I call the flexors of this hand. Push out. And what you're looking for is one of the ways people who've had a stroke can experience those others who have also experienced a stroke. And one of the things that I notice with post-stroke players, some as they continue their triumph, is that in going to shake their hand, they kind of misjudge and then adjust. So you'll find that they come to shake your hand and then there's adjustment. I think I've passed that stage where I can go directly to the hand. So there's no what was that word that I even forgot what it is, but it's kind of the awareness of where your hand is in space, which is something that this was the first kind of concept that I brought to you. So once again, for this one here, make the effort to push as this one pulls. So push outward the flexors as this one pulls. So as you can see, this is a benefit to both hands, and you can do this away from the guitar. As you're sitting in church, as you're sitting on a Zoom call, okay, push out, because that's going to push out, increase the range of the hands, and as far as you can stretch them, and then bring them in, forcing these apart. So my brain is forcing them apart to fight the tendency of it coming together. And as you see, hitting each other as it comes to the string, because if not, as you can say, if I'm doing this in terms of planting, I actually am hitting my P-I-M-A, my A is hitting my M as I come forward. Now this is easily disguised in terms of dexterity, because there are many ways that you can force yourself away from the necessary technique in order to do that. I want to approach it head on so that I can do my sweeps, which are not affected by this. Things like what's that called? What is that? Whatever that. You can do that. That's not affected by it. But what is affected by it is the ability to do planting and to do the metronomic precision. Plant into the arm into the palm as this one kicks out. Plant, and as that comes in, this one kicks out. Plant, and as this one comes in, this one kicks out. That kind of thing, that kind of motion. As these other fingers follow sympathetically at first. By sympathetically, I mean they seem to be connected, so that as this comes out, the little finger comes with it. As this comes out, the index finger comes out with that. I'll show you as well techniques that I've discovered that will combat both. In other words, part of this whole thing is another technique which is going to concentrate on the M finger, which is your main melody finger, and this other finger, the little finger, which as you can see has further to travel because it's shorter. And so adjusting the hand position to that while you are doing the splaying of the hand in order to get the technique necessary. These are pretty independent. Remember, this is P-I-M. So I-M, these are good. Usually there's no real difficulty. But here, it is on the single string, going then a little further. So playing this, and then mentally on the same string, choosing a spot that's at least a fret away. So if you practice here, it's at least a fret away as you come to it. here and then a fret away, rather than as you normally would, or as I used to do pre-stroke, which is, I think I'll make that a word, pre-stroke and post-stroke. So what's funny about that, or endearing in that, as that is that these are also called free strokes with an F, where you're not hitting the string below it, and then rest strokes, where your finger comes to rest on the string below it. This is a rest. These are rest strokes. So these are free strokes. These are coming into the palm of the hand. Rest as free. Generally a slightly thinner tone, because the rest strokes punch through. But the whole concept for today that I'd like to kind of instill in your mind, and as I said, you can actually feel it as you are trying to force the neural pathways elsewhere. Sorry, I can feel it as I force the neural pathways, that it's not a pain, but it is a kind of numb sensation that I can feel in my brain. And the exercise here is to play this and then play again, but then play it again by playing a bit further down the string. Can you see that? So it's here, we play it here, and then a bit further down the string. So here and then here, that's the exercise. Further away again, keeping the M in pace, then further away even again. And now walk them away from each other. I think this would be good with rest strokes. So walk it away from this, walk the distance this way as you practice. And I think I know of no therapist in the galaxy who's going to break this kind of shit down to you. If you can find one, let me know. I'm going to consult my daughter, again, the kinesiologist, who, when I was getting to this stage and I had no strength in the hand, she just said, Dad, hold the ball. Just hold the ball in your hand constantly. Hold your ball in the hand. And let me review a couple of things from the last session. If you are with someone, spouse, boyfriend, etc., what you're looking for as a telltale sign that they may be about to, or getting, or in danger of having a stroke, is the fact that if holding a wine glass, it looks as if it is about to spill. You see the coffee. A number of people told me this. Carl, why are you about to spill your wine, right? And I wasn't aware that I was not holding the stem of the wine glass vertically. So in other words, I wasn't totally aware. Perception, I forgot, but anyway, I put the word as something that we should learn and concentrate. So there's that. The other thing is to be around people who are cognizant of what's going on. I was at a Governor General ball, all dressed out, decked out, and on the way there, somewhere during this, I bit my tongue. So I bit my tongue, not a big idea, not a big deal, I thought. And I am with my dinner date, who's actually a nurse, a lecturer at the University of West Indies. And I couldn't get the bleeding to stop. There was this profuse amount of, but almost disconcerting amount of blood that's gushing from my mouth, from a little thing in my tongue. And then as I excused myself to go to the washroom a number of times and have soaked 2 full hankies and things full of blood, she explained to me, well, Carl, of course, because you are on blood thinners, what that means is that it's going to be tough to get a blood clot. So we did the whole ice thing, whatever, and she graciously Sat there, went through the whole thing. We got some ice from the bartender. I put it on my tongue. I walked away and froze, and also kept, went to the washroom. So this is in the midst of a very, very formal dinner that was being held to commemorate the achievement of the netball stars who won the West Indies Championship. I think it was back in 74. I think they repeated, which was even more amazing. So be aware of that. I fell the other day and I hit my chin. The sidewalk is coming up to my chin. I hit my chin. Unbelievable amounts of blood, like all over my shirt, and I was meeting some friends. My bass player had said, Gustav had said, Carl, come down, meet some people. I decided against it, and then I said, you know what, stop being so antisocial and go. Anyway, short story, the amount of blood that came from a little cut on my cheek all over my shirt had me looking as though I was in a fight to the death. And make no mistake about it, you are in the fight to the death. So once again, planting, the flexing, the ball, the strength, and as I said, all of these, like try the different things, try the seamer, try the googly, try the whatever you can as you do this, try the knuckleball, all of these. This is a in fact, I need to source some of these. I got this at a CBI function in Antigua, but I need some more of these. And I always wonder if this was a mouse nibbling at this, or like, what is this? A very strange abrasion right here, or contusion right here. But as I said, but you don't want to spend all of your time on this, building the strength through the forearm, etc. What I suggest that we do is use that in conjunction. And I've seen machines like that, where it's kind of a ring. If not, I think I might make one. It's a ring and it pulls together and you have to push against that. So pull against that. So let's say the springs are this way, and you're pulling against it as something, rather than the other ones that you see where you push against the digits. This would be one where you're pulling against the springs and strengthening the extensor muscles. I don't know if that's the actual word, but you are working on the extensor muscles instead of the flexor muscles. Extend the claw, and call it the claw, because that is what you will end up with. These things atrophy very quickly, and I've seen it happen, and I've seen the results of it. So fight it every day. Fight it every day. I also cut out alcohol. I've almost cut out meat in my diet. Like all of these things working together. And of course, I've now started, because if you're going to be going out to dinner, or you're going to be performing or whatever, make sure that you look good. Don't be looking like a big belly beer gut septuagenarian. Listen to this part from I don't know if you know this from. This is. Should I do this now? No, I think you have enough for now. But once again, planting, and with the rest strokes, planting, plant an inch further, walk it away from each other, and loudly, then softly, then loudly, walk it away from each other, walk it all over the string. Happy practicing, guys. Good luck with it. And we will triumph over this. every single day. So all the other people who have all the things, doing stuff, the scrolling, the whatever, uh, this isn't even something that you do while you're on Zoom or watching TV. It is something that takes dedicated practice and dedicated concentration. I think that I can keep this up maybe for just about 5 to 10 minutes at a time, and then I have to take a break because it's mentally exhausting. Good luck. My name is Carl. I'm from St. Kitts. I am a stroke triumpher. What do you call that? Triumphant. Triumph. I need a verb that means triumphing over the stroke. Triumph over the challenge.